What does your winter heating bill look like? From what I know, plenty of families are dropping at least $700 every single winter. But I'm here to tell you that more than half of that heating bill you pay every month is completely unnecessary. Would you believe that? I'm not telling you to just use the heat less or to layer up with more clothes. I mean this literally. There is a method where you only burn twigs and branches for 30 to 40 minutes a day, and it continues to pump heat into your house for the next 24 hours. It uses 80% less wood than a standard fireplace, and it costs about $300 to build. This method has been around for decades. People all over the world are using it. The reason you haven't heard of it isn't because it's unreliable. It's because it's terribly unprofitable for certain people. It's a great deal for you, but a terrible deal for the guys collecting your money every single month. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jared Min. Every day, I'm here exposing the everyday secrets they don't want you to know. Before we uncover this method, let's talk about what that heater in your house is actually doing. If you have your heat on right now, go touch the metal grate on your vent. That dull, oxidized color, the baked on dust caked in the crevices, lean in and smell it when it kicks on. It's the scent of scorched dust, mixed with the stale air of aging plastic. The working logic of this machine is incredibly simple. Burn money, blow hot air. The hot air dissipates, burn more money. The second you turn it off, the house immediately starts cooling down. It has absolutely zero capacity to store heat. It is literally just a machine that turns energy directly into thin air. You keep paying, it keeps running, and that's it. Some people might think, well, using a fireplace to burn wood has to be cheaper, right? Do you know the temperature of the exhaust shooting out of a traditional fireplace chimney? Over 300 degrees Celsius. That's the heat from the wood you paid for, blasting straight up into the sky. All that stays in the house is a bit of radiant heat, plus a room full of unburned smoke and particulate matter. The actual thermal efficiency of an open fireplace is only about 10 to 15%. The remaining 85 to 90% escapes right up the chimney. That's exactly why you have to keep throwing logs into it, because the whole system is inherently leaking. In 1980, a PhD in mechanical engineering named Larry Winiarski nailed down exactly what the problem was. He said that all the heat loss in traditional stoves comes down to just two things: incomplete combustion and the heat having nowhere to go. He designed a J-tube combustion structure. Wood is fed horizontally into the front, and the flames roar upward through an insulated vertical chamber. The insulation locks in extremely high temperatures, creating a powerful natural draft. The airflow inside creates a low roaring sound, which is exactly where the name rocket comes from. The combustion efficiency is nearly perfect. All that stuff that doesn't burn cleanly in a regular fireplace, the stuff that turns into black smoke and creosote, is entirely converted into heat here. But just solving the combustion problem isn't enough. The exhaust is still over 300 degrees when it heads for the chimney, meaning that heat is still escaping. Then, another guy solved this. Applied ecologist Ianto asked a simple question. If the exhaust is still over 300 degrees going out the chimney, why not capture that part too? His approach was to route this high-temperature exhaust into a pipe buried inside a cob bench. The pipe runs for 20-something feet, twisting and turning, allowing the exhaust to transfer its heat directly into the clay structure all along the way. By the time the exhaust finally exits the chimney, its temperature has dropped to just over 30 degrees Celsius. The heat doesn't escape, it gets entirely locked inside the bench. This nearly half-ton clay bench effectively becomes a massive thermal battery. After the fire goes out, it continues to steadily release heat into the room for the next 24 hours. You burn branches for 30 or 40 minutes to charge it, and it does the rest of the work itself. That is the entire logic behind the rocket mass heater. Now let me explain why you've never heard of this thing. Let's look at a few numbers first. A standard open fireplace has a thermal efficiency of 10 to 15%. A modern, officially certified wood stove hits about 60 to 80%, but it has zero thermal mass capacity. The moment the fire stops, the house cools down. A rocket mass heater operates at 80 to 90% thermal efficiency, plus it provides up to 24 hours of continuous heat release. Now let's look at emissions. For officially certified eco-friendly wood stoves, regulations allow up to 4.5 grams of particulate matter emissions per hour. Because a rocket mass heater burns so much more cleanly, its particulate emissions are 80 to 95% lower than a standard fireplace and 50 to 70% lower than even those officially certified wood stoves. In other words, this piece of equipment that building codes define as non-compliant actually pollutes less than the certified equipment the law forces you to buy. The reason why is incredibly simple. United States building codes require all wood-burning appliances to pass UL. Safety certification and just the testing fees alone start at $50,000. A rocket mass heater is custom built on site to fit each specific home with a building cost of $200 to $300. No manufacturer is going to spend 50 grand to get it certified. No certification means no legal status. It's that simple. Then you look at the other side. There's a product on the market called a masonry heater. Its thermodynamic principles are basically identical to a rocket mass heater, but it costs between $10,000 and $30,000 to build and requires a licensed tradesman to install, and it's completely legal. A $200 to $300 solution that works better and pollutes less has no legal standing. A solution that costs tens of thousands of dollars is protected by law. It's not a conspiracy, it's just basic business logic. Only expensive things generate enough money for people to pay for certifications, for interest groups to lobby, and to get written into building codes. A portion of that money you obediently pay every month is simply the result of this logic. So, a lot of people are probably asking, how do you build a rocket mass heater? The reality is that in most parts of the United States, you can't get a building permit for one. If you live in a community with an HOA, or if you plan on selling your house, this gets complicated. Before you start building, you need to research your local codes yourself. I can't make that decision for you. Also, it's not suitable for every home. The whole structure carries some serious weight, so it requires a solid foundation. Apartments and small townhomes aren't going to cut it. It requires enough space to house the thermal mass bench, which is something you need to evaluate clearly beforehand. With that out of the way, let's talk materials. The core materials you'll need are fire bricks, regular bricks, clay, sand, and a metal barrel or refractory pipe to use as the inner tube of the combustion chamber. You can find all of this at Home Depot or your local hardware store. The total material cost is somewhere between $200 and $350 depending on how big you build it. The entire structure breaks down into 3 parts. Part 1 is the combustion chamber, that J-tube structure. It consists of the horizontal feed, the vertical burn chamber, and the upward extending heat riser. The heat riser absolutely must be well insulated with refractory materials. You cannot skip this step. The quality of the insulation directly determines if the combustion temperature gets high enough. If the temperature is too low, the efficiency of the entire system will plummet. Part 2 is the heat exchange section, which is the piping the exhaust travels through after leaving the combustion chamber. This pipe is buried inside the thermal mass bench. I recommend a total length of no less than 20 feet, winding its way through so the exhaust can fully release its heat. The pipe itself can be metal or fire brick, wrapped in a mixture of clay and sand. Part 3 is the thermal mass bench itself. You mix clay and sand at about a 1:3 ratio. Blend it thoroughly, pack it down in layers, and let it air dry naturally. Be warned, do not try to speed dry it with fire, or it will crack. The whole bench needs at least 2 to 3 weeks to dry completely, and you cannot rush this time frame. There is one critical detail I have to make absolutely clear. The chimney exhaust outlet must be positioned lower than the combustion chamber feed inlet. It relies on the temperature differential to create a natural draft, which is the core of the whole system's airflow. If you get the outlet position wrong, the system will backdraft smoke right into your house. This is the single most common reason for failure, and it's the easiest step to overlook. Before you fire it up for the first time, you have to do a test burn. Light it with a small handful of twigs, observe the airflow direction, and confirm that the draft is pulling the smoke up and not pushing it back into the room. Do not skip this step. If you do, you'll regret it. For the first few fires, the bench won't be fully cured yet, so don't let it get too hot. Let it slowly adapt to the thermal expansion and contraction. Keep the first 3 to 5 burns under 20 minutes, and then gradually extend them to the normal 30 to 40 minutes. Only use dry hardwood for fuel, with a moisture content below 15%. Wet wood burns at a lower temperature creates a massive amount of creosote that clogs the pipes and causes the system's efficiency to drop drastically. Chop your wood 6 months to a year in advance and stack it outside to season. This isn't something you can cut corners on. Finally, let me give you some straight talk. I'm not going to tell you that building one of these will immediately drop your heating bill to zero. Every house is a different size, has different insulation, and experiences different winter temperatures. There isn't a single solution out there that can guarantee you that. But the physics behind the system are very real. This isn't some folk remedy. 2,000 years ago, the Romans used underfloor heating. 3,000 years ago, the Koreans used ondol. The principle is exactly the same. Lock the heat into a thermal mass and let it slowly radiate back to you. All Winiarski and Evans did was re-implement this principle in a modern way. For families that already have a fireplace, who buy a massive pile of firewood every winter but still can't get the house warm enough, this direction is seriously worth looking into. Cutting your wood consumption by 80% isn't an exaggeration. It's dictated by the combustion efficiency and thermal mass structure. For households relying entirely on central heating, a rocket mass heater can serve as a great supplement. You don't have to replace your entire existing system all at once. Solve the heating for your living room or the rooms you spend the most time in first, and your bill will naturally change. Think the risks through before you start building. Check your local codes, evaluate your home structure, and absolutely test the draft direction on your first burn. If you're unsure about anything during the build process, go ask someone with actual experience. There are several forums and Reddit subreddits dedicated entirely to rocket mass heaters, filled with people who have built them and are willing to share the details. This stuff has been around for decades. People have built them all over the world, and the information isn't hard to find. You aren't without options when it comes to that heating bill you pay every month. It's just that no one ever told you where the options were. That's all for today's content. See you next time.